So again, you have many days to do this test and take advantage of that. Download the test tonight and go through it, do all the easy questions from your perspective first, and then start tackling the harder problems and keep coming back to them. Okay, these are all very doable based on the strategies I've given you so far. I'm going to talk about those again today in a minute here. Okay, so any questions? I know the whole quiz thing, this whole quiz generator thing is not designed for science. It's designed for English classes and history classes, and art and science, which is a hands-on kind of deal. Particularly organic chemistry, where you have a lot of structures, biochemistry, a lot of structures. It's really hard to implement. So I'm in the process of working with IT and the e-learning department to kind of actually develop some new strategies that they've not addressed before regarding this. So anyway, so right now I decided to let test 1 to be totally take home. Now test 2, 3, and 4 are going to be kind of a multiple choice fill in, which will lend itself fine for quiz, the quiz generator. And test 5 will be take home like this test. Okay, so test 1, test 5, take home. I'll give you many days to do it, and you upload it in the PDF file on assignments. And the other test will be timed via Proctoria. Okay, does that make sense?
I'm sorry, can I ask a quick question, please?
Of course.
So for the test 1, I'm looking at it right now. I wasn't aware that you could take a couple of days to do it. Where do you find the actual test? Like, where is it?
Go to Files,
All
Table
right.
Files, Test Related, and it's right there.
All right.
I'll show you here.
Thank you. Yeah, I just found it. All right.
Yeah, good. Okay, and then we click over here to Files, and that's in the message I sent out too. Okay, Test Related. And I gave you another thing. I gave you 2 versions of it. I gave you the Word version, and I gave you the PDF. The reason I gave you the Word version, if you want to expand the area where you're going to work, you can do that. If it's the PDF format, you can do that, but it's a lot trickier. But again, anyway, I gave you both versions, and either version is fine. Okay. The main thing is if you do the Word version, the DOC version, you need to, before you submit it, you need to then convert it to a PDF file. And you do that via the File Save menu. You'll go up File, and it says Save as a PDF. You've got to save it first, but then you say Save as PDF, and it'll convert it over. Okay. All right. And you did find it, right?
Yeah. So we solved the questions electronically.
I'm sorry, say again?
Like, we solved the questions electronically?
Well, you can do it a couple different ways. I would suggest, if I was you, I would suggest you download it, print it off, do it on paper, scan it to a PDF using either your phone or something like that to a PDF, and then upload it. You can do it totally electronically if you want, but most students feel more comfortable doing it with pencil and paper. Okay.
Sorry, just one last question.
Sure.
So do we have to show the whole process when we're answering a question, correct?
If you want full credit, correct.
Okay.
If you just give me the answer, you'll get 10%.
All right. Thank you.
So I would suggest show me how you worked it.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the exam right now, and I see that there is number 2 is crossed off.
Yes, because it's duplicate.
Okay, so do not do number 2.
Yeah, and you can do it, and I'll give you a smiley face.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing, when I did it, because I was copying and pasting from the worksheet and then modifying it, and then when I copy and pasted it, I did it twice. That's what happens when you're old.
Okay, so just number 2, do not do it. So
Yeah.
just 1 and then, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so let's jump into the rest of the content for Unit 1. And then I want to just kind of work through some problems. And now Unit 2 is going to be very, very different than Unit 1. Unit 1 is real mathy. Unit 1 is very mathy, and we're going to revisit all that math in Unit 5. But between Unit 1 and Unit 5 is non-mathy stuff. So and remember, you get to drop 1 test. It's giving you kind of an insight into what's coming up. Tests 2, 3, and 4 are very, they're quantitative, but they're not mathy quantitative. We're talking about, electronic configurations and some naming stuff and all that stuff, but it's not math per se. So, all right, so let's jump into, and you guys just jump in, and I'm very open to questions. If you want to ask a question, just don't be shy, okay? You can turn off your video so I don't see you. Just go, I have a question about, I don't understand this step. Could you, I remember when I was an undergraduate, in fact, when I was a freshman, I went to American River College, and then I transferred from there over to UC Davis, and then from there I did all my junk. But I remember my professor actually I was a sophomore in the quantitative analysis class. His name was Chuck Corwin. He used to always say, when you ask a question, you ask it in such a way that it is non-confrontational. For example, you could say, could you elaborate on question or on step number 3, as opposed to, I don't understand step number 3. He and I are still good friends, by the way. Anyway, all right, let's see here. Okay, so let's jump into where I left off. Okay, so where I left off was on dimensional analysis and converting. And most of these were one-dimensional kinds of conversions. But what happens when you get into two-dimensional conversions? Here we're going from inches to centimeters. And that is a straight one-shot conversion. And by the way, all these conversions I have on the conversion sheet on the test, which is the last page. So the last page will always be conversions, conversion factors. And there's a lot of stuff on the last page. A lot of that you won't need. So you have to go through there and say, oh, here it is, I need this, or I don't need this. If I don't need it, you just ignore it. Okay? And that's living in the digital age. You get a ton more material than you really need to understand the problem. And you have to, as an educated individual, you need to differentiate between what's germane and what's not, what's superfluous and what's not, what's BS and what's not. Now, we're getting this bombarded with all this COVID vaccination stuff. We're getting bombarded with all this non-vaccination cures for COVID. Okay, lots and lots and lots of data, and you need to go through it as an educated person and determine what makes sense to you. Okay, so basically, we've got 3 levels of conversions. This is, I consider, a one-dimensional conversion. In other words, inches to centimeters. We're looking at going along one axis only. What happens when we're going along 2 axes? For example, we're going from square feet to square centimeters. That requires a different conversion. Okay, and the conversion has to do with the one-dimensional version, either square or cube, depending on whether we're talking about square units or cubic units. If we're talking about square units, we have to square the units. If we're talking about volume units, we're talking about cubing them. So if 12 inches is in 1 foot, how many inches are in a square foot? Well, that is 12 squared. Or 144 square inches is in 1 square foot. What about a cubic foot? Well, that would be 12 inches cubed. So that would be 12 times 12 times 12, which would be what? 1,728 cubic inches equals 1 square foot, which is like, wow, that's a big number. But it's 12 by 12 by 12, 12 by 12 by 12. And you need to understand that when you're doing this. So whenever we talk about conversions that involve something other than linear or one-dimensional, we have to take into account whether we're talking about area, which is a squared function, or volume, which is a cubic function. And all we're doing is we're taking and squaring or cubing the conversion vectors. Okay, but it always boils down to the 4 steps again. Is it a balanced equation? That's unit 5, not unit 1. So we get to ignore unit step 1. Step 2 is what's given. Step 3 is what are you calculating? And then the conversions. So if we're going from 1 dimension to 1 dimension, it's one thing. If we're going from 2 dimensions to 2 dimensions, we have to start squaring the conversions. If we're going from 3 dimensions to 3 dimensions, as in volume, we need a cubic or cube the conversions. And of course, this is 0.265. Okay, I've got a problem very similar to this on the test. And it's kind of a germane problem because it's really has to do with our current situation in the state of California, actually in the state of Oregon, state of Washington, Western Mexico, and Western Canada. It's, man, we get so much rain a year and we need so much because we're going to drain off so much. In this situation, we're draining off that many liters every 15 seconds. We're starting with this, and we need to convert to hours. Okay, so this is a multi-step problem. Okay, let's go through this in detail. Okay, so we're starting with that's what's given. We want to calculate hours. And included in the question is a conversion factor. Remember, conversion factors are fractions. Okay, so that's 2.54 over 15 seconds, fraction. Okay, so what's given is 105 times 10 to the 6 gallons, and we want to convert to hours. So is there a direct conversion from gallons to hours that you know of based on what's given? No. So that means it's a multi-step problem, okay? So what have we got going here? Okay, we've got, okay, we have liters and seconds. We have anything to do with gallons or hours. So all they've given us is this kind of intermediate. Liters and seconds. Now we can relate gallons to liters, and we can relate seconds to hours. So that's going to be our our route to get from gallons to hours. Okay. Well, let's start with liters. Let's convert those gallons to liters. Well, what's our conversion factor that we got here? We have liters and gallons, okay, right here. 0.265 gallons and liters. Notice gallons have got to go on the bottom because they have to cancel. Now we have liters. Notice this conversion factor has a liter in it. So we can use that liter to get us over to a time unit, seconds. Okay. And what has to be on the bottom is going to be liters, seconds on the top. Okay, and what is that? Okay, that's 254 and 15 seconds. Okay, now we have seconds. We don't want seconds, we want hours. Okay, well, we'll need to convert those seconds then to hours. Okay. First step is get it over to minutes. We have 60 seconds in a minute. Now we have minutes. Now let's get those minutes over to hours. Okay, so everything cancels except hours. What are we trying to calculate? Hours. So to grind that out now, you're going to take 105 EE6 times 15 . Okay, so that's everything on the top times 1. We don't have to worry about 1. All divided by 0.265 divided by 2.54 divided by 60 divided by 60. Enter. Okay, which is 6499. So how many sig figs is that we're talking about here? Well, let's see. Okay, we've got that is 5 sig figs here. 3, 3, infinite because those by definition. So our answer should be in 3 sig figs. So that's going to be 6. Okay, so we go to the 4th place. That makes that a 50, one more than 49. Period, decimal point to make it sure it's 3 sig figs times, oops. Okay, we have to make sure right now that is 2 sig figs, right? We want 3 sig figs. What we're going to do is we're going to convert that to scientific notation. So that's 2 sig figs. Because this is 2 sig figs. This is 4 sig figs. And we want 3 sig figs. Okay. All right, so multi-step problems. Now you're going to have some on the test. You have some on the test, and those are going to be the harder ones on the test. The multi-step problems, you need to think, okay, is there some kind of intermediate step that kind of glues everything together? Like in this case, the intermediate step was 2.54 liters per 15 seconds. That was kind of the glue. Here we had liters and we had a time unit. And then you can kind of glue those together. That's the secret, is what's given, what you're trying to calculate, and what's the conversions between the given and calculated. And the conversions are really nice if you've got some kind of semblance of given and calculated in them. So in this case, we had gallons, which is volume, hours, which is time. Okay, liters per second is volume and time. So that's kind of our secret conversion that gets us from the given to the calculated. How are you guys doing?
I'm lost.
Okay. Where let's back up a second. Are you okay with this guy?
Which part of it?
This problem here.
Yes.
In other words, if I gave you that problem, you're okay working it.
Yes.
Okay, it's a one-stepper, right?
Yep.
Okay, the difference between a one-stepper and a 12-stepper is the same thing, only you don't have anything direct. See, that's the problem. Okay, when you get a problem, you look at the given, you look at calculated, and you go, is there a conversion factor with both the given and the calculated in it? If there is, that means it's a one-step problem. But you know how life is not a one-step problem. Life frequently is a multi-step problem. But the point I'm making though is you're trying to relate to the given and the calculated. And that's through these conversion factors. So you need to kind of relate through conversion factors. If the conversion factor's got the given and calculated in it, it's one step. But if it's not, then you've got to somehow relate these through other conversions. Easier said than done, right? Okay, let's just do some examples here.
I think my biggest issue right now is the calculation for the larger problems, like going through each step and then determining the sig figs of the final product.
I'm not sure I followed you.
So like when you set it up on your calculator, I couldn't see any of that, so I'm not sure. So did you just like multiply all the way down
Oh,
and then
okay,
do
okay.
individual division
Yeah,
through each
what-
one,
Yeah,
or?
yeah, yeah, okay. Okay, that's, okay. Okay, so you're saying, once we have the setup going to the answer, right?
Yes.
Okay, are you okay with the setup?
This initial part, yes, I feel fairly confident with.
Perfect. The other part is, do you know how to use your calculator? And I'm not giving you much credit for that, because the setup is the important part in my class. That's the real important part in my class. I'm not trivializing working your calculator. I'm just saying, though, the setup, if the setup isn't right, it doesn't matter how well you can work your calculator. And notice I made great effort here to show how these units are canceling. Because unless those units cancel, your setup is not going to be right. Okay, so to answer your question, the way I work this problem is everything on the top, you hit the multiply key, everything on the bottom, you hit the divide key. Okay, just netting it out. Now you can do this in a whole bunch of individual steps if you want. And there's a chance that you'll make an error, transcription error, blah, 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 all that stuff. You can do it that way, or you can do this all in one step. If you do it all in one step, you let the calculator keep all the intermediate steps and all the sig figs and all that junk. You just have to worry about the end product. So to do this problem, you would go, now I'm going to, tomorrow, I'm going to have another camera set up so you can actually see my calculator. But today, set up. I'm going to have that set up for you tomorrow. Okay, so how it would work this problem is I would start by 105. And I would hit the EE key, 6. Times 1, which you don't have to worry about, times 15. I'm just going across the top now. Times 1, don't have to worry about those. And then we're all done on the top. Now, on everything on the bottom, we hit the divide key. Divide, 0.265. Hit the divide key again, 254. Hit the divide key again, 60. Divide key again, 60. Enter. Now what I've done is I've let the calculator keep all those intermediate steps internally. So bottom line is, once you get this set up, you hit on the top, you hit the multiply key, everything on the bottom, per item on the bottom, you hit the divide key. If there are 3 items on the bottom, there aren't 1, like in this case, there are 4 items on the bottom, you're hitting the divide key 4 times. You're hitting with the 265, with the 254, with the 60 and the 60. Does that make a little more sense?
Yes.
Okay, this, it works really well. And remember, if you have this setup right here, and this problem's worth 10 points, you get 9 points. And you go through all this calculator stuff, I give you a point. And that assumes your sig figs are right and your units are right. So gee, what am I emphasizing here? I'm emphasizing the chemistry. Chemistry. And when you get in 400, you're going to find that this applies directly. When you take your physics class, this applies the same exact way. Exactly the same. Physics and chemistry are like dovetail when it comes to doing problems like this with dimensional analysis. Okay, well, let's do another one. And let me go through this again for you, okay? But you're feeling a little better now?
Yes.
Okay, and you're not just saying that, right?
No, yeah, I feel better with the setup. I walked through it with you as you like we're talking through it.
Okay, okay, cool. All right. Let's see. Okay, this is a, okay, let's just look at this problem here. We're gonna do this from scratch. Okay, so a barrel contains 59 gallons of wine. How many bottles are required? Each bottle has a volume of 750 milliliters. Okay, how many bottles you got? Okay, so what's given? 59 gallons. What are we trying to calculate? Number of bottles. Do you have a relationship between gallons and bottles? No, but you've got a relationship between milliliters and bottles. Okay. So over here we have and what's the relationship between gallons and liters? That's going to tie those two together there. Okay. So we're using 0.65 gallons in a liter. So our gallons cancel. Do our liters cancel?
Yes.
No. We have milliliters and we have liters. So what's the problem here?
You need to go from liters to milliliters.
Yeah, we need an intermediate step here because our units aren't canceling. So our answer is going to be have a whole bunch of junk in it. We don't want milliliters and liters in our answer. Those need to go away. So we need to get rid of liters and we need to get rid of milliliters. Okay, so if we put liters on the bottom and 1,000 milliliters on the top, that way our liters will cancel and our milliliters will cancel. Now everything cancels except for bottles. What are we trying to calculate? Bottles. So that's our setup. So how do we work this? We're going to go 59 times 1 times 1,000 times 1, divide key 0.265, divide key 750. So we're going to go 59 times 1,000, divide 265, divide 750. Enter. Okay, and this is 2 sig figs. So this needs to be what? $300, but 300 is not 2 sig figs. We need to write it as 30.0 times 10 bottles. Bottom line, everything's got to cancel except for the calculated unit. First out of the chute, we need to make sure we cancel the given unit, in this case, gallons. So let's get it over to liters. That'll get rid of the gallons, gives us liters. But our bottles are in terms of milliliters, so we need to get the liters over to milliliters. Now our bottles per milliliter will cancel, giving us number of bottles. every one of these problems is going to have a given and a calculated. Every single one, no exceptions. And you've got a bunch of junk in the middle that's going to convert the given to the calculated. And they're all going to be fractions. And those fractions need to cancel each other out. If they don't cancel each other out, you don't have the right fractions, or you don't have the right inversion of the fractions. Let's see, are there any more conversions here? Let me see. I can't think of any problems at the top of my head, other than the ones given here.
Professor,
Yes.
I know it kind of goes back to the one-step problem, but is it possible if from the homework you could go over some of the early unit conversion problems, just because the having the exponent in there, for some reason, I just wasn't able to understand even with your explanation on the homework answer sheet.
Sure, let's see. Let me, okay, yeah. And let me pull up some of the homework here. I can go over. Would you like? Okay. When I added some extra worksheets as well. Are you referring to those or the original homework?
I was referring to the actual original homework over. Yeah, the ones that worked with just scientific notation and stuff like that for some reason tripped me up.
Okay, this is going to take a second because it's a giant.
Are we talking about the one with the 16 pages?
That's what I just pulled up. Is that what you're talking
Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah, that was what I was talking about.
Okay, yeah. All right. Well, here it is in all its glory. So, do you have anything specific? I can go over any of this stuff.
I was looking at question 43, B.
Okay. This guy here, right?
Yeah.
Nanometers to meters. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Okay. So this is a what's given. Given is nanometers. What's calculated is meters. So what is the conversion factor to go from nanometers to meters? How many nanometers are in a meter? Nano is billion. So that means there are a billion nanometers in 1 meter. So that means the conversion factor is 1 over 10 to the 9th or 10 to the 9th over 1. Okay, so we have okay, so that's given. And we want to get to meters, right? Okay, so is there a conversion factor, excuse me, that has both nanometers and meters in it? Well, I'm not on the lecture one, but yes, we have nano means billion. That's 10 to the 9th. So there are 10 to the 9th nanometers in 1 meter. So whenever we have an equality, that's conversion factor. You convert that into fraction. So that's the same as 1 meter per 10 to the 9th nanometers, or 10 to the 9th nanometers per 1 meter. You okay with that?
Yeah, I understood that part. I guess it's mainly just the having 10 to the 9th and then the answer being,
Okay, all right. So let's just throw it in there. Okay. So now we're going to take, we're going to use this one here because we want the nanometers to cancel, because we always want the given to cancel. So that means it's going to be 1 meter, 10 to the 9th nanometers. Okay, so the nanometers cancel, gives us meters. That's what we're going to calculate. So in our calculator, we're going to put in 6981 times 1. Hit the divide key, this is the bottom. And we're going to go EE 9 over 10 caret 9. Enter. So this is going to be 90%, remember. And our answer is going to be 6.981 times 10 to the minus 6. So did you get the setup part right?
yeah, I did. I think I just, tripped myself up once and then my brain couldn't move past it, but it completely makes sense now.
Okay.
I
And
have a quick question just to piggyback off of that, actually.
yeah.
So for some reason, I decided to actually write out all of the zeros. I mean, that's very clunky, but you will still come to the correct answer at the end. Yes?
Correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
thanks.
Assuming you put in the 9 zeros, yeah. Yeah, your calculator could give a rip. Assuming it doesn't go a whole lot past 9 zeros. If you get like 28 zeros or something, it's gonna be goofy, but yeah, it should be fine. Did you get the same answer? Curiously.
The first time, no, working with such large numbers made it easy to make a small mistake. But so I see why scientific notation would have been useful in this case.
And remember the setup. The setup is giving you most of the points too. So if you were to set that up and then you put in all the zeros and all that junk on your calculator, you got the wrong answer, you still get 9 out of 10 points. Because that's a calculator issue, not a chemistry issue. And remember, you're in a chemistry class, not a math calculator class. And some professors differ greatly on that. They go, well, they need to learn how to use calculator. Well, I want you to know the concepts, because you will remember the concepts in 2 years. You won't remember how to put it in your calculator in 1 week after this class. But in 2 years, you'll understand the concept still.
Are we starting Unit 2 tomorrow?
Well, I was thinking about theoretically, yes. The problem I have is not very many people are giving me any feedback on where they are. We have 54 students in the class, and I have regularly anywhere from 4 to 8 people giving me feedback on how they're doing. And to be really honest with you, I would be willing to guess most of the other people are, holding off doing much of the work till they get the test. I mean, that's classic. So I would like to do a review session still, just kind of going over more and more problems for Unit 1, and also starting Unit 2 as a separate session tomorrow. So in other words, what I'm saying is tomorrow I'd like to do 2 sessions. Another review session, like kind of what we're doing today, and then also starting Unit 3.
But it's going to be in the same meeting, right?
No, I'm going to separate the 2. I'm going to have 2 Zoom sessions where I end one and start another one, but it'll be back to back.
Are we going to start an hour earlier or go a little later?
I'm going to go a little later. I'll
Got
probably
it. Thank you.
not spend. I'm not going to have I don't envision a 2-hour session. I envision like an hour and a half.
Okay.
And you're free to bow out if you want to not listen to the Unit 3 and just focus on Unit 1, and Unit 2 and focus on Unit 1. That's fine. But remember, again, the purpose of this class is to prepare you for Chem 400. And that's why it's real important to do all the homework, even though I don't give you official credit for it. And also, if you cheat, it's not doing you any good because it's not prepping you for 400. If you cheat, you're really not prepping yourself for 400. I mean, I'm not suggesting anything like that, but everyone goes, "Oh, you're giving a tick on." Guess everyone's going to cheat. Some people will cheat. You're right, but they're not going to do very well in unit and when they get to Chem 400 if they cheat. Period. So again, the purpose of 300 is to prepare you for 400. Now, this whole thing on cheating in 400 is a big deal because that is a transfer class and all that stuff. But this class purpose is to prep you for 400. And they have emphasized to me that a lot of the quantitative processes are real important in this class, because that's where a lot of 400 students fail, is in what we're doing today, the unit cancellation stuff. They fail at. So you guys are at a real advantage taking this class, in my opinion. I think everyone should take this class unless you're a savant. And those people, it doesn't matter how hard the class is, they'll do well. It's like you write them off. But everyone needs a class where they go through these real fundamentals. I have a lot of colleagues that told me, "Oh, you're teaching a class, where they're real weak and all this stuff." I said, no, they are getting the fundamentals of how to succeed in Chem 400. My students are at a real advantage going into 400 as opposed to your students who had no prep class. And because this stuff is assumed when you go in there, that you know this process, assumed. And if you are a pretty good student in high school coming into Chem 400, oh, I know all that stuff. Well, guess what? One, the amount of material is going to blow you away. And secondly, you may or may not know the material well because you got an A in chemistry in high school. And that's the advantage of my Chem 300 students, is I'm assuming you know nothing. And a lot of you know a lot, but I'm assuming you know nothing. And we're just going to go, you start here, how do you get there? You start here, how do you get there? And hopefully doing it a zillion times, it starts to make sense. And I'm giving you lots of time to do it as well, to minimize test anxiety. Because I want you to feel good about this stuff. Just feel good about it. So I'm giving you tons of time, and I'm hopefully giving you lots of practice. Hopefully that combination makes sense. Okay, so now I have no problem if you have a specific problem in the worksheet. Like I don't know who was talking, but Problem 43B. Let's go over that. I have no problem with that. Your comment about let's put all the zeros in instead of the 10 to the 9. Yes, it works fine. Get the same answer.
I have a quick question. I would love to look at more of the like English to metric or metric to English. I get a little tripped up when we're using different systems of measurement. There was in the homework, there was some questions like 46 and 47, I think, dealt with that.
Yeah. You know, the problem I have with all these is that when you're in chemistry class, you never talk about ounces and quarts and pints, but they always have you convert from one to the other. It just, unless you're cooking and you have a recipe from France that's in grams and liters and milliliters and stuff, you really don't ever have to convert. But anyway, does any one of these you want me to go over? Be glad to go over any of these.
Yeah, I would love to do the, let's see, 47B, pounds to kilograms.
Okay. All right. So we're okay. So let's go here. All right. So what's given? 14.8 grams. Excuse me, pounds. And we're trying to go to kilograms. All right. So right away, we need to cancel out the pounds. So what conversion factors you know that will get rid of the pounds? It's going to be nice if it involved kilograms. Do we know a kilogram to pound conversion? Excuse me.
Yes, we do. I can't remember, but we do. 2.2 kilograms is a pound.
Was it
Yeah.
2? Yeah. Yeah, so right away our pounds cancel. Oh, first step. Okay, we've converted our given to something else. Now, can we go from the something else to what's being calculated? Well, in this case, we're going to kilograms. Well, actually, this is a one step. But let's say we were going to, instead of kilograms, we went to grams. Okay, but the conversion I gave you is in kilograms and pounds, not grams and pounds. So now that we have gotten rid of the pounds, we have kilograms. So how do we go from kilograms to grams? Well, another conversion. Oops. So we need to get that kilogram to cancel. And then how many grams are in a kilogram? Now the pounds cancel, the kilograms cancel. What didn't cancel? Grams. What are we trying to calculate? Grams. So our setup is done. We just have to crank it out now. So we're going to go 14.8. Times 1, which is, don't have to worry about that, times 1,000. Divided by 2.205. Okay, so 3 sig figs. So that makes that 6, 7.
Yeah, it's making sense. It's just, I just need to keep practicing, but it's clicking.
Cancel, cancel, cancel. Name of the game. Cancel. Right out of the chute, you got to cancel the given. Boom. So you have to come up with something that's got the given in the denominator. Boom. And then what you have left over is in the numerator, the top one. And is that the answer you want? Possibly, or if not, you need another conversion to get rid of it. You know, and you just kind of I mean, this can be like 12 steps long. It's not going to, you're not going to have a problem with 12 step long in my class anyway. But it could be like 4 steps though. But and then the last step is always, you have to have the last step conversions always has to have in the numerator what you're trying to calculate. So the first conversion has got to do this conversion, this cancellation. The last step can't be canceled because that's what you're trying to calculate. So step number 1 is get rid of what you're given unit-wise with a conversion fraction. And make sure what's remaining is what you're trying to calculate.
I'm not sure if this is relevant, but instead of this chart that you're using for this conversion pathway, can we just do fractions?
I'm not sure what.
Like, for example, 1 kilogram over 2.205 pounds, just fractions, not like a chart.
Oh yeah, you mean like the lines?
Yeah,
You mean like that?
yeah, exactly that.
Oh, for sure.
All right, just making
Ab-
sure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, the parentheses, the vertical lines just save you from doing, you know, a open and close parentheses. That's all. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Not a problem at all. Some people are, they might have learned that a long time ago with parentheses, and then I'm doing this vertical line stuff. That we're going,
Vertical lines are easier to
some
like
people
read
like,
through.
yeah, some people like them, some people don't. Tomatoes. In my class, it's all the same answer, so great.
I think that it can make more, like, I agree that the lines make more sense, but I also grew up with the parentheses, so that's the way I'm most comfortable still.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's fine. Absolutely. And the only problem is I don't know, when you take 400, it depends on who you take, and I'm not sure whether you're going to, that's why I like to go kind of parentheses and the lines, kind of go back and forth, just because what you're going to encounter with your next class could be lines only, or they could use a combination of parentheses and lines, or, you know, just the more you get into chemistry and physics, the more you'll see the railroad track lines and less of the parentheses. Just FYI. It's just textbooks, professors, they all lean towards the lines. It's just less writing. To me, it's a concept jump because you have to understand that this is a fraction. It doesn't look like a kind of fraction that you're used to, because everyone's used to the fractions inside the parentheses, but it is the same thing. Excuse me. This smoke is making, I'm dying. I went kayaking Sunday, and we kayaked for, I don't know, 4.5 hours or so. I was fine until I got out and we started getting into smoky territory, and I started coughing like heck. I ride my bicycle, I start coughing. It's like, sorry. Okay, tell you what I want you to do is go ahead and do some more problems, and think through some more practice problems, and then we'll hit those hard tomorrow for the unit 1 practice. Okay.
Okay, I have another question about the 47B. For the final answer, if it's 14.8 pounds to kilograms, is the final answer not 6.71 kilograms?
No,
Or
I
am I reading that wrong?
No, you're right. I just said I wanted to add another step. So I said, well, let's do grams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just trying to make it a more complicated problem. That's all. I mean, no, you're right. So it would be 6.71 kilograms. Yeah.
Where are we right now with the labs and everything? Because I just wanted to make sure I'm up to date.
You're fine on the labs. The labs are doing work shop, they call them, which is kind of what we're doing a lot of now. On week 5 is when we start with actual lab kind of, you're looking at real balance, pictures of real balances and doing some kind of quasi labs through videos and still pictures. So don't worry, they're fine.
Okay.
Has the bookstore got that the lab manual stuff in stock yet?
Yeah, I looked at it online. It was about $22. It was there.
Okay, okay, good.
So for now, we just have to take the exam, maybe go over unit 2 and we're good.
Yes. Yes. Have you tried uploading the practice quiz?
I haven't, but I've done a lot of uploading PDF files for other classes, so I thought it'd be fine. But yeah, I'll definitely do that before I
Okay.
upload my
So
exam.
if you've already done a lot of that in other classes, that's fine. I just wanted, there's a real challenge with chemistry and physics classes and using the quiz generator, because the quiz generator is not designed for you doing any handwritten stuff. And when you get into organic chemistry and biochemistry, it's all you're doing is drawing structures and stuff. You're not doing multiple choice tests. And that's what the quiz generator is designed for. Now, our tests 2, 3, and 4 will lend themselves much better for that than test 1 and test 5. So test 1 and test 5, I've decided to just do as a total take-home test. And test 2, 3, and 4 are going to be more traditional quiz generated ones where you go, okay, you know, either fill in or A, B, C, D, or E or something like that. Because there's no calculations, there's no, it's very different material. So I'll give you a heads up on the lab stuff when we get into classic lab stuff.
All right, thank you so much.
Now, you guys, don't be shy about asking me questions. You know, you're like on the test. Could you clarify? Does this make sense? You know, because I went through the test and I did the key and everything like that, and to me the test is fine. But if you find an error or something like that, make sure you tell me. I will give you extra credit if you find an error on the test. So don't be shy about saying it just makes sense, and you may be wrong, which is fine. But if you're right, I want to make sure I'm going to give you credit for finding an error, because I want to, then I'll immediately publish it to the rest of the class. Okay, so let's stop here and go ahead and jump into tomorrow. And tomorrow is going to have one Zoom session, but it's going to be, I'm going to stop it and then restart it. Starting unit 3 or unit 2. So between now and tomorrow, go through the homework and stuff and come up with some problems or whatever. And I'll go over some, I'm going to go over some of the extra dimensional analysis worksheets I included. I'll go over some of those problems with you if you don't have any specific questions. And we'll just kind of work through that stuff. Okay, just to kind of give you more practice. And I highly advise you to download the test tonight to get started. Go through the easy problems, skip the hard ones, and don't worry about, you know, you go, oh my God, this is so hard. Don't worry about that. Just skip it. And because you have a lot of days to keep coming back, keep coming back, and keep coming back, keep coming back. Okay, strategy. Because you have lots of time, take advantage of your lots of time. And don't just stress on one problem. Skip it. Go on. Come to the next one. Because they are not in order of increasing difficulty, by the way. They are not. So some in the middle are harder than the ones at the end, just FYI. So if you find it like goofy, skip it. Now these are, I like to do practical problems, and these are real life problems, especially the one on the gold. It's a long story how I came up with that problem. It has to do with My dad was in World War II in North Africa, and that's what the people there did. They used to take gold coins and buff them, buff off the gold so that the coin was recognizable as a US tendered coin. In other words, if it's $20, still cash in is $20, but you remove gold and they took the gold dust and cashed that separately. That's real life problem. Anyway, that's how I came up with that problem, by the way. So, okay. Any more questions? Are you all comfortable making a PDF file from your final exam?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's pretty standard in college these days, is to convert your whatever to a PDF. So good.
Just to get this straight, submitting the quiz is optional,
Yes,
but encouraged.
yeah, I just wanted you to make sure that you can do that, because that's what you're gonna have to do for your test. So if you've never done that before, try it and then check with me to make sure it went through.
It said something about we get credit for it as well if we submit it.
No, you're gonna get credit for it regardless. Everyone's getting 20 points on their first quiz.
Okay.
Okay.
Because it wasn't your guys' fault. It was the IT's, they only had a long story, but yeah, you're all getting credit. So if you already know how to do this, don't worry about it. And if you've never done it before, use this as an opportunity to test your process for uploading. That's what I was could use it for. That makes sense?
Yep.
Remember, achievement. That's what I want my students to do. High achievement. I want my students to feel comfortable about what they're doing. Want them to do well. Then when they get into the final class that they're prepping for, to do well, particularly. Like my students do better than the other students, the other classes. I can say that. Okay, all right.